work through a very, very simple analogy or example of a dispute, and say two neighbors disagree over a property line or disagree over that apple tree, and they go to each other, but for one reason one party won't speak to the other party. What are you to do? Go then, again following Matthew 18, take somebody with you?
Yes, I think it's important to get someone else involved. Maybe the reason that person is not speaking is because I have a problem with you. I just can't communicate with you. Well, fine. Maybe you can't communicate with me, but let's get someone that we both respect, someone we can use to mediate between us, to be in the middle, to help us to communicate. Maybe I'm not making myself clear. Maybe it's this, that you just don't like me. That's fine. That happens. It comes up. But I think if you will not talk with me and you will not talk with someone that we can agree upon, a neutral party, then we've got a major problem.
And you say this will work even if one of the parties is not a Christian? Is it still a good practice to follow, approaching them personally?
I think mediation is always an excellent alternative. Again, people like to know that they're being heard. And we need to be good listeners when people are explaining, you hurt me, or I've lost this, or I've been offended in some way. I need to hear you out. And I think if people are just listened to, that bridges a lot of gaps right there. Just being attentive to their needs and their interests and desires.
What are some of the fundamental social aspects that are occurring in our society that are keeping us from listening to one another? Are children not being taught how to listen? Are we just becoming isolated because of crime, because of fear, because of whatever in our homes, air conditioning systems? I mean, for whatever reason, is there no longer a community, a neighborhood spirit where we feel we can know who our neighbor is, support our neighbor, and assist our neighbor?
I think it's all of that, Jim. You put your finger on a lot of the causes. We have lost the neighborly feel that we had in our country in the early decades of this century, which is very unfortunate. And the breakdown of the family, I mean, how much can we say about that has just contributed to this, where people are becoming little islands unto themselves and separated from their neighbors and their families. There's no moral values being taught to kids coming up. So they start thinking about the most important person on this earth, which is me. And what do I want? And I don't care about you. If I want your video camera or I want your lawn chair, I'm going to take it. And I don't care what others say. It's very unfortunate. And somewhere we've got to go back to doing what God said and making our families work and teaching our children well, bringing them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
Teaching them how to listen.
That's right.
We have a caller from Miami. Marianne, welcome to Worship Live.
How are you tonight?
Just fine.
This is Marianne Quinones Warren. I'm watching your show, and I just want to wish you the best of luck on your new book. I have started reading the book you gave me. The first book that you wrote, and is very interesting. I can only wish you the best of luck on the second book.
Well, thank you very much, Marianne.
Marianne, what did you think of the first book?
Very good. It's very well written, and I think it would help a lot of people, and especially on, like you said, about the children. And you have a chapter on children. I read, a couple of chapters, and I think it's a very interesting book. And I think it really helps a lot of people that are going through a divorce now, or thinking about a divorce, or trying to solve their problems. Like Warren says, mediation sometimes works better than going through the courts. And in some cases, you can't do anything except go through the courts, and the divorce is the final step. And I think what Warren is trying to say in his books is that he doesn't really want to go through the divorce, but there's sometimes no choice. Like he himself says, he had to get out because he had no other choice. And I just think that people should understand that divorce sometimes is the only way out. And I just want to wish Warren best of luck with his second book. And Warren, I wish you'd give me a call when you come back into town again.
Okay.
All right, Warren.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like somebody who knows you.
Yes, that's actually one of my clients.
Oh, okay. Well, we're glad she's able to see us there on Channel 35 down in Miami.
Yes.
Warren, again, how can people find help? Not everybody has the gumption or has the fortitude to go to that offended party and or the person who has offended them and say, we got to talk. we got to work this out. How can they raise that fortitude? Can the Holy Spirit work with them and give them that fortitude? Do they need sometimes a little bit of pre-counsel from a friend to a counselor, a pastor?
I think a big part of this would be for churches across the country to start talking about how important it is to do what Jesus says to do, and meeting face to face. It's intimidating to a lot of folks, I know that, but it is the right thing to do. And commitment is not always convenient, but it's the Lord's way. And I think that if people maybe needed a little nudge or an opening or how to get started, maybe getting some generic advice using a hypothetical would be good. Talking with some friends, saying, I've got a problem with a person.
Without getting into that gossip, which we talked about earlier.
Right. That's right.
In a church setting. Another caller, Mary from Fort Lauderdale. Mary, how are you this evening?
You.
Just fine. How can we help you, or how can you help us?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm recently going through a situation here, and I'm in the process of divorcing. My husband just decided, after nearly 2 years of marriage, that he didn't want to be married anymore. And I have gone through a really hard time, I'd have to say, for the past 6 months, always feeling like, well, what can we do? What can we do?
Have you gone to court, or?
No, we
at this
haven't.
point?
That's the odd, peculiar part of it all. He keeps saying that he's going to go to the courthouse. Now, I have moved out in April, and he still has not taken any action. And when I question him on this, he just says, well, I don't have the time right now.
I believe you're saying you have gone to counseling, or?
Oh, I've gone to counseling, definitely. I've been going for about approximately 4 months now. And it truly has helped me along with prayer.
But has he been willing to go to counseling?
No, it's funny because he, in the beginning, decided he wanted to go, and then all of a sudden he just didn't. He states that it's just not for him, marriage is not for him. And I thought, is there another woman or anything? But, he's young, and he just says it's just not for him. Now, when I had gone to talk to the pastor at my church, he stated that I should, really have a conversation maybe with his parents and sit them both down, even though they are divorced, and say, there's a little problem here, and we are a family, and we should try to stick together and see if maybe there's a deeper problem where it, lies within him that he's just not willing to discuss with me as his wife.
Is there an unwillingness, you think, on his part to go to mediation or to resolve this thing?
I think so, because he's got a very, very difficult time with communication. He misconstrues it for confrontation. So if you go to discuss something with him, it's like, oh my gosh, she's getting on my case again, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's very sad because he really is truly a great person. He was very much into the Bible when I met him. He went to church. All of a sudden that stopped.
So if I could put words in your mouth, your question is, how do you get a person like this into mediation?
Exactly. Now, I've discussed it with him recently, and I said, David, maybe perhaps you should go speak to the priest at our church alone, without me. And he just listens. He really doesn't say anything about it. Again, I just think society and advertisement and everything else makes it just too easy for man and or women nowadays to say, okay, if it doesn't work out, let's just forget it. I think that when you go to the church and you do speak to your pastor, I don't think it's a bad idea for the pastor, if he married you, of course, or maybe even if not, to call up the couple and either bring them together and or call the gentleman and say, David, I think you need to come in and discuss this with me,
Warren,
and take it a step further.
That's a good question. Warren, what do you do if a party's just unwilling to make a move here?
Well, it sounds like this person is really just shutting down. And I think that in that circumstance, what I would do is find out people that he respects, people that he's close to. Surely there is someone that he considers to be a close friend, and say, look, I have tried to approach my husband about this. The pastor has tried to approach him about it. He does listen to you. He respects your judgment. Will you come and be a part of this and help us to resolve this? Because it is important for a married couple to be together. And it's not good that we're separated and apart like this. There is something that's bothering him that he's not coming out with, and we need to try and help him work through that. If it's something that I've done, then let me know what that is. If it's something that he's struggling with his faith, we want to get him the help that he needs.
So occasionally a family member or a close friend of his could bring him into the loop.
It could. You got to get him talking.
Well, Marion, thank you for your for your question, Mary, and hope that gave you shed a little bit of light on it. We're kind of running out of time here, Warren, so I just would like to recapitulate what's going to happen if we don't get a handle on this. We're going to have a crisis, and the secular world is litigious enough, even if the Christians don't join in the frenzy.
That's right. I'm concerned that we're going to just be overwhelmed with a mountain of litigation, and the courts can't keep up with it, is the bottom line. And if the courts are not able to keep up with it, our nation is going to suffer. The Lord has given us a very workable way to resolve disputes through mediation.
Well, let's try to get in one more call here from Deborah, Lawrenceville, Georgia. Deborah, how are you this evening?
Very good. And yourself?
Just fine. How can you be of help to us, or we to you?
I've been through a lot of trials and errors. I had a son, he's had a head injury, and I thought that my relationship with my husband and I were just hunky-dory. He seemed, when we came back from the hospital after 7.5 months, he left me with 3 young children. And if everybody can learn to trust in the Lord and let each and every day go on and keep your chin up, then life is much better.
Are you saying that this tragedy to your son really precipitated
we had a very good relationship. We really did. And it was very sad to see that he wasn't strong enough. And I've gone through a lot, and I know that if anybody can understand that it's easy to get through life, and with the Lord beside you, you can walk real easily.
Warren, don't we find this in many marriages, that a tragedy or an illness or something that one party or the other can't handle very effectively will precipitate a crisis in the marriage?
Sure, and many times it's financial crisis. Money seems to come up quite often in wrecking a marriage. But it's all the more reason for a couple to hold on to each other and say, look, this is not a problem in our relationship. This is an external pressure. Let's work it through. Let's think of some options and alternatives together. If we can't do it ourselves, let's get some ideas from other people. Seek the advice of many counselors is what Proverbs says to do. And use the brain trust that God has given to us in the church. There's a lot of very creative and intelligent people there that we can tap the resources for to work through problems like that. But hold on to each other. It's just so important to keep a marriage together.
Warren, as always, our time flies, and we wish we could keep you on another hour, but we just can't do that. Let's give one last opportunity for our viewers to find a way to order your 2 books, and if we can get a tight shot on them. When the Vow Breaks and Courting Disaster, the very most recent publication, which will be out in the bookstores very quickly. 1-800-233-1123. That's Worship Live for this evening. We'll see you again tomorrow night. In the meantime, keep looking up.